Welcome to SQL Handbook. My name is Shashan, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to control and limit recursion in a recursive CTE. If you guys want to know what recursive CTEs are, I've made a video about that earlier, so check out my channel. Let's get into the video. All right, so on the screen over here, I have written up a very simple recursive CTE for us. I'll be using this to demonstrate how we can control and play around with the recursion limit of a recursive CTE in SQL Server. All right, so I've given a very simple name called number CTE. In that CTE, in the inner query, so in the brackets over here, I have written a anchor member, right? I've given a union all and then a recursive member. That's how you structure a recursive CTE. If you guys want me to go more in depth about that, I've actually spoken about this in another video. I think it was the last video, so check that out. Okay, so now what is this CTE doing? So this recursive CTE, basically the anchor query over here is just selecting number 1, right, in a number column. And then that's the starting point for my recursive CTE. And all I'm doing after that is just taking that 1 and adding another 1 to it, right? So basically it's just adding 1 value to the integer every recursion. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so on. Now this keeps going till, normally a recursive CTE will keep going till no result is given by the recursive query. But in this case, we're always going to get a result back, right? It's just adding 1 to the actual number. So it'll just keep running forever. Now, let's say we wanted that. Let's say for some reason we wanted a CTE to run for a very long time. And if we were to run this, the whole CTE, I get a comment back from SQL Server saying the statement was terminated. The maximum recursion, which is 100, has been exhausted before statement completion, right? So this tells me that in the database engine has a default value of 100 recursions, where if that is met, the CTE is like, the database engine is like, look, we're not going to let this go on further. We're going to terminate right now, which is actually a good thing to have because we don't want recursive CTE to just run for an infinity number of times, right? That's just not useful for anyone. But let's say that we wanted it to run more than 100 times. What do we do? Right. So for example, let's say in this recursive query here, I had a where clause to limit the recursions of the CTE. Instead of going to go 100 times, I'm going to say, let's go 50 times. So I'm going to say where number is less than 50. Okay. Now, will this recursive CTE have the same error message spat out to me if I run the whole thing again? I don't, right? I get a list of integers up to 50. Which is where it's meant to end, right? So that works fine because we're within 100 recursions. Now, if I were to put, let's say, 120 over here, right, and run this whole thing, again, I get that same error message where it says a maximum recursion of 100 can only be done by default. Okay, so 120 is obviously over that recursion limit, so that's why it terminates. Right now, how do I work with this? If I wanted the recursive CTE to run 120 times or however many times, how do I work with that? Is there a way for me to alter the limit of the database engine? And there's a statement called option max recursion. Okay, option max recursion allows me to set a new recursion limit for this particular query. So now I put here 110, but instead of 110, let me put 150. Now we know earlier this failed with this error statement over here. If I put 150 over here, what happens? And if I run the whole thing, cool. I get my results back and it goes up to 120. That's the limit I put over here, right? So now it works. So if you wanted to increase the limit of 100 recursions, you use this statement over here, option, max recursion, and then what integer you want. Now some things to note about this integer. It only can be between a range of values, and that is 0 and 32,767, right? So that's just how it's built. That's the max recursions we can add for this specific range, right? So does that mean we can't go above this? Not necessarily. I can add this value 0. So if I add a 0 here, max recursion 0 doesn't mean 0 recursions. It means unlimited number of recursions. So when I write this, I'm just telling the query that you can run as long as you like until you finish. If you finish. Let's say there's no let's say, for example, there was no where clause over here. I had a query like this, right, with max recursion of 0. If I run this now, you will see on the bottom left over here, my query is continuously executing. It's not finishing. You can see the circle keeps going around and around. It says executing query over here. And you can see that my time on the bottom right is also increasing, which means that this query has run for now like almost 20 seconds, right? And if I go to the bottom of this, you can see that the number just keeps going up, right? It doesn't stop. If I go to the max, you can see the number just continuously increases, right? Now I'm going to stop that. But that's to show you guys that now if you wanted to, for whatever reason, wanted to take away the limit of recursions, you use the option, you use this statement over here with an integer of 0. That will tell the query you can run unlimited amount of times, right, without being stopped by any default limits. Now, obviously, be very careful when using this. There's a very small amount of use cases where you want that to happen, because when this is happening, just keep in mind all temporary result sets that are given by the recursive member and even the anchor member, right? All the result sets that are returned by this are stored in tempdb. Tempdb is like this, you can think of this scratch pad in a SQL Server. Essentially, the database engine uses it as a place to write down values temporarily. And this tempdb can grow in size continuously if you have a recursion that's happening multiple times without stopping, right? And that you could run into other issues if tempdb just keeps growing and there's like tempdb bottlenecks and all these issues you can face. So to avoid that, I would give you caution to use this statement over here. Be very careful with it. But just for your knowledge, you can use this statement to remove any limits of recursion for a recursive CTE, right? So I hope that helps you guys. If you guys are looking for more SQL, check out my YouTube channel, and also you can check out my Instagram. Links to my socials are in my bio. I also have a newsletter that I'm going to start posting once a week, all my little notes. So if you guys like this stuff, check out that. Again, link in bio. I'll see you guys in the next video.